Enter Yes is a premium award-winning visual effects and animation studio specializing in animation and visual effects for high-end feature films and documentary. Enter Yes's Belfast-based studio has over 10 years' experience delivering over 500 shots of high-end visual effects and over 3 hours of documentary animation. They work on both international Hollywood feature films and local independent productions. Enter Yes has created assets for movies and television productions, including Ordinary Love, The Changing Times of Ike White, Looper, A Patch of Fog, Derry Girls, The Windermere Children, Lost Kingdom of the Black Pharaohs, The Fall, Good Vibrations, and Jack and Jill. Their list of clients, partners, awards, and funders include Northern Ireland Screen, BBC, Bionaut, Film Forever, Green Man Gaming, BAFTA, and UK Games Fund. Before I arrived at the studio, I was in contact with one of the owners, Vicky Rock, and communicated with her via email. The 2D department in the studio consists of Carla, who I was being supervised and advised by for the duration of my placement, Francesca, who was also present in the studio, and Vicky and Phoebe, who were both working remotely. The studio's 3D department consists of Chris, Natasha, Emmett, and Adam. For the duration of my placement, I worked on 2 different 2D animation projects. One was a screenplay called Lollipop, written by Lisa Marie Russo. It tells the story of a woman from the time she is a child, covering a number of different aspects of womanhood, specifically the notion of her body betraying her in a wide variety of ways. The narrative discusses body image issues, plastic surgery, sex, romance, reproductive issues, and most pertinently, her trauma and struggle dealing with breast cancer. Parts of the story that deal with the overwhelming emotions she feels with regard to her breast cancer are told through the lens of metaphor. A conceit of beaches, carnivals, and sea creatures that are reminiscent of the protagonist's childhood are used in these parts of the screenplay. We were presented with a script, which had a number of scenes highlighted that we were to produce concept art for. Bus filled with tears. Ava flees the supermarket, tears streaming down her face. It's cold and there's light snow. She jumps on a bus. She cries, alone on the bus. The conductor takes pity on her and doesn't collect the fare. The bus fills with tears. Nick appears outside, breathless. When the doors open, the water pours out, and Ava is caught in a wave. Nick is carried along until they are dumped, wet, in front of an abortion clinic. Merry-go-round. An antique merry-go-round slowly kicks into action as warped fairground music cranks up. Fabulous sea creatures circle around, a serpent, a crab, a sea turtle, a dolphin, a dirty mermaid. Ava is a bare-breasted nautical figurehead at the front of a tiny ship/baby seat commanded by the diaper-clad Angelo. Ava's breasts spout out milk. She looks straight at the camera and comes to life. I'm a milk machine, stripped naked of my own identity, drowning in a sea of soggy diapers. Thunder and lightning. Despite being fixed to a pole, the ship shakes. The camera holds her gaze. The ride and the music pick up speed. Angelo becomes red and scabby, scratching and wheezing. Angelo's health plummets. Eczema, food allergies, asthma. My body has abandoned his. The merry-go-round turns. H is in the boat with Angelo. Rabbit hole. Ava tumbles down through a dark hole as she experiences the rest of her treatments. As she falls, Ava's body is irradiated. She's a glowing skeleton. Then the breast area shines red with a rash. She scratches, her eyes flutter, hair drops from her underarms. Ava pops tamoxifen and her body changes like Alice in Wonderland. She sweats, her body goes limp, her head pulsates with pain. She gets big and small, skinny, then fat, and then skinny again. Her hair grows back and thins out. Ava hits the dark underground with a bump. Crab stew. They attack her chest with a knife and tiny tools. Breast skin is pulled back as we descend into her chest cavity. Inside is a boiling stew. 2 little crabs are removed from the breast tissue, and a grape-like bunch of 14 lymph nodes are extracted from under her armpit. Clinging to the nodes are 5 little crabs. Ava is shocked. Everything in the room is blown away except her. She looks at the camera. This is the blowback. She is sucked backwards and tossed into the crab stew. Ava thrashes about in the stew, naked except for her crucifix and horn. A baby floats by. She frantically grabs its foot, but can't hold on. The baby floats away. She swims after it, but it disappears. Crabs nip at her feet. A sea serpent winds itself around her. She fights it, but is overwhelmed. Pinwheel. We go deep into one eye. Ava appears on the pinwheel. She's a circus performer, and knives are being chucked at her. They stick in the pinwheel, dangerously close to her body. Her hair flies into her face as she addresses the camera. The other project I worked on was called Breastival, which was a series of first-hand accounts of women's experiences with breastfeeding. The mood boards, concept art, and character designs had already been created, so I was given 4 voiceovers, each approximately 1 minute in length, to create animatics for.
With James, I had the benefit of going to like a pilot antenatal breastfeeding scheme that was being run in the Southern Trust here. And it really fired me up to breastfeed. I learned all about how the breast milk seals the gut, about antibodies, about all that. And it sounded like something I needed to do. Now, at the same time, I was pregnant with my best friend. Our babies were born 9 weeks apart. She had a horrendous time breastfeeding. And I remember whenever I was coming up to my due date, her landing up with ready-made cartons of formula just to have in case I needed them, which at the time seemed like a really supportive thing to do. In hindsight now, you don't leave an emergency cake supply for somebody who's trying to diet.
My name's Hayley and I am now breastfeeding my second baby. My first wee girl, she is now a year and a half, and I breastfed her for 6 months exclusively. And now my wee boy is 9 weeks, so we're exclusively breastfeeding again. Don't know what really triggered it, but I always knew in my head that it was something that I really wanted to do, partly because it's the most natural thing, it's felt like that's how I was going to like nurture my baby. And also my mum died of breast cancer quite young, so breastfeeding will reduce my risk of getting breast cancer, and as I am quite high risk, that made me even more determined to do it, as I just want to give myself the best chance I could.
I was 36 when I was pregnant with Finn. Because I had a section, I was about 4 days in hospital, and it was July. It was very busy, apparently one of the busiest Julys, and so the wards were really, really busy. The midwives were really, really busy. So the real challenge for me there, and where I feel like it could have ended early, was just around the lack of support in the hospitals. My memory of being really, really upset was just around visiting time, and how the rules were like you were only supposed to have, 1 or 2 people there, but other families there with like 5, 6, 7 people there, and all the curtains were pulled out. And I remember hobbling up to pull the curtains round, because I guess at that stage I wasn't very confident about feeding, and I really wanted some privacy. And it took me like a good 20 minutes to get up, because I had my wound. And then this sort of gruff sister came along and she said, no, we have to open up all the curtains, get these windows open, get some air around these babies. And I just remember starting to cry, and then the 20-minute hobbling back into my bed.
She was tiny and was a bit of a slow gainer at the start, so she had dropped some centiles, and there was a lot of pressure on, is she getting enough milk? We tried, loads of different positions, but she was really happy, healthy baby, and she didn't really stop moving. So while there was maybe a lot of emphasis to top her up and, real emphasis on weight gain, I had no other concerns around her health. So we just kept going with the feeding. But about 4 or 5 weeks in, I was having real bother feeding on one side, real agony to feed, and actually we knew there was something not right. And it turned out I had a breast abscess. So ended up having to go into hospital. Tried several drains and it didn't drain, so I had to have it operated on and packed out, which meant that I could no longer feed her on my left side. I ended up feeding her for 15 months.